All right, thank you for all the participants on site, and also have the friends on internet to see our live streaming. Currently, we're going to the afternoon session, will be session 2. The title name is the Implementing Gender Equality, Disability, and the Social Inclusion in Disaster Management. So at this moment, we are very pleased to have the Emeritus Professor Chen Liangquan, the Graduate Institute of Building and Planning, National Taiwan University, Taipei, to moderate this session. So first, please join me in welcoming the moderator, Professor Chen Liangquan. You're welcome to come to the stage first. And I would like to also invite the speaker at this moment. The first one is the Chen Yingyue, the manager of the Fire Safety Building and Disaster Prevention Evaluation from Taiwan Architecture and Building Center, Taipei. And the next speaker, Bianca Domenis Perez, now who's the officer in charge, Quezon City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office. Please also join on our stage. And the next speaker is Ravi Ranja Guru, who's Deputy Director General from All India Institute for Local Self-Government, Delhi office from New Delhi. Please join us on the stage. There are 3 speakers. And then we have the panel discussion panelists. The first one is Deputy Commissioner from Department of Social Welfare, Taipei City Government, Lin Shu-e. Please. And the second panelist who join us on the stage is the Professor Shen Zisheng, now from the Department of Fire Science, Central Police University, Taipei. All right, every guest take your seat. So I would like to turn the floor to the moderator, Professor Chen Liangquan. It's your time, please.
Good afternoon, 大家午安。我们是 I'm sorry, I will put it in Chinese, so pick up your earphone. 今天我们是第2场的。
This is the second session on the agenda. The theme is Implementing Gender Equality, Disability, and the Social Inclusion in Disaster Management. This is a very important topic, particularly in recent years. Here in Taiwan, we have multiple disasters, and we also have put focus on disaster management. Therefore, this is a very important session. In the past, facing disasters, we put emphasis on victims of the disasters. However, there were some vulnerables, people who are vulnerable to the disaster impact. They were called vulnerables in disasters. However, now we don't use these terms anymore. We would like to use the term inclusive of disaster management. This is a new theme, and this is also very important. And for gender equality and for people with disabilities, how we can achieve the goal of inclusiveness. This year marked the 25th anniversary of the September 21st earthquake. Actually, after the earthquake, we visited many impacted areas. In terms of reconstruction and the recoveries, many women were involved in the process. And I often joked about that men talked more than women, and the women actually do the things more. For example, taking care of the kids in the family. On the other hand, when we talked about gender equality, sometimes this topic was ignored. And when we think about like shelter or responses to disasters, actually there were people who need special care and how we can take care of them. I think this is a theme of this session. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers today. The first speaker, Manager Yue Chen from Fire Safety Building and Disaster Prevention Evaluation, Taiwan Architecture and Building Center, Taipei. Our second presenter, Mr. Ravi Ranja Guru, Deputy Director General from AILSG Delhi office. And also, we have online speaker, Ms. Bianca Perez, Officer in Charge, Quezon City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, Quezon. And we have two panelists. The first one is Deputy Commissioner Su Ling, Department of Social Welfare. I'm sure that Department of Social Welfare is department in charge in the relevant issues. And the second panelist, Professor Zhisheng Shen, Department of Fire Science, Central Police University. Now, we would like to begin our first presentation. Now let's welcome Manager Chen.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to join you at this event. I will speak in Chinese, but my slides are in English. I'm from the Taiwan Architecture and Building Center. This is a certified organization of the Ministry of Interior since 2014. We have the work with Professor Sun, Professor Jen, to launch some campaign to help the vulnerable groups in Taiwan. And that was about the housing justice issue. Let me use the next 10 minutes to talk about the topic of the challenge for long-term care facilities. Taiwan is an aging society. In the 2022, Taiwan became the super-aged society. 1 in 4 the Taiwanese is the elder, and also there's a need for us to take care of these elders. In Taiwan, we have the many long-term care facilities, especially in 2017. The regulation was amended to provide the vulnerable groups with especially well-designed assistance. And we actually covered a lot of organizations. In 2017, there was a major overhaul and integration of the services. And thanks to that, some elders lack cognitive abilities. So the many residents with a different level of their disabilities and types of disabilities live in the same facilities that include people who are bedbound elders. So that creates a daunting and a complicated challenge for evacuation when disaster hits these facilities. As you can see from the 2011 to 2019, since we witness the fires at these facilities, many residents needed help. And if these fires happen to the facilities, and we see that 66.7% of fires in these long-term care facilities happened during the night. And also at the nighttime, then these facilities are usually understaffed. So we need to think about these residents need people to evacuate from the facilities, but at the night, these facilities are understaffed. I think in Japan and also in other countries probably face a very similar situation. So this is a common challenge to long-term care facilities in many countries. Especially we are living in the era of the climate change. This is from the World Bank report. It indicates that Taiwan is considered one of the most vulnerable regions globally to natural disasters, with 73% of its land population facing 3 or more types of hazards. That means 2 or 3 hazards. To able-bodied people, we can run away, we can find safe places. But for the residents with disabilities, at the long-term care facilities, it is not possible for them to evacuate by themselves. This year, we experienced a major earthquake. So this topic was discussed one more time among the major government agencies on how we should deal with such a challenge. In early days, these facilities really need a lot of the staff to help the residents to evacuate. For example, a small facility may accommodate 49 the residents, but some large organizations have more than 200 residents. And disaster itself has an impact on residents. That when chaotic situation happened in these disasters, there's also another aspect that's the public safety for the staff members. So in here, that we assess the risk and the impact, especially for those controllable and uncontrollable disasters. So this is the 2 key points. And secondly, when a disaster hit, how can we protect the people, our residents? That means our aim is to protect human life, including institution service, residents as well as staff members. Over the years, we believe that we need to protect the vulnerable, the residents, and the staff member, as well as firefighters. How can we evacuate these residents with disability or the cognitive disability? So we actually propose a staged evacuation. We should bring the people to a staging area or temporary saved area. I talked about the understaffing of this facility. That means we need to enhance the hardware infrastructure. So the Ministry of Healthcare and Health and Welfare has worked on that, and to improve the automatic sprinkling system, as well as the automatic the 119 or 911 notification system. So let me go back to talk about Taipei. Taipei has a very high population density. You can see the spacing of two buildings are usually very small. So the building density is also very high. That also pose a daunting challenge to firefighters. If this is more than one hazard, if there's 2 or 3 hazards, then that will be even more challenging. So we find that some facilities are located in the lopsided land plot, and that also create difficulties for firefighters to come there to rescue residents. And also in the Taipei City, there are the many old buildings with very limited seismic tolerance. So if earthquake hit Taipei City, that will create another the challenge we need to deal with. So these are issues I would like to discuss with you. That also concludes my presentation. Thank you.
谢谢陈经理。好，我想你。
Thank you very much, Manager Chen. And if you have any questions, we can leave that to the end of the Q&A, the end of the session. And now we would like to invite our presenter online, Officer in Charge, Quezon City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, Quezon. Is it the connection okay now?
Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Right here. All right. So let me present to you our initiatives and the deep concerns that we are facing in the city of Quezon for inclusive resilience. So next slide, please. All right. So to start, let me first define what is inclusive resilience. So based on this definition of the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, we talk about inclusive resilience when we say that there is full, equal, meaningful, and inclusive participation and contribution of women, the elderly, persons with disabilities, migrants, indigenous peoples, and local communities in all processes related to disaster risk reduction and management. So basically, the easiest way to define inclusive resilience is resilience for all. When we talk about building resilience, we do not exclude anyone. So no one has to be left behind, right? So building on this definition, please. well, we're in climate change neutral. So this means that that there are more severe effects to women and to children with disability and disabled disabled individuals when there is a disaster. And then based from this presentation that I got, it is actually was presented in one conference of here conducted here in Quezon City. These are the gendered impacts of climate change. So women experience differently these particular concerns. So first, there is food security and access to land. Um, Women are affected differently because actually this also connected to human mobility because since women has different roles and responsibilities specific to society that in particular societies they have more caregiving responsibilities. They are restricted by movement and mobility, and this is further exacerbated in disaster situations wherein males or where there are certain conditions wherein males are more free to go and be mobile in situations where they have to find for work, but women were expected to take care of the families. They're not they're restricted to movement. So um, it, so in that way, they are not able to get full access to what are the services that are provided by the government or that are available to individuals affected by disasters, and also for health, for pregnant women, um, for lactating women, there may be complications that they may experience because of the severe shock that the disaster or the climate change or the emergency can affect upon them. And of course, that would mean that there are more needs that they need. So that is also connected to sexual and reproductive health and rights, and sexual and gender-based violence and discrimination. And the data shows that women are more subject to gender-based violence and emergencies because in camps when it is not protected, when rights of women or are not are overlooked, um, security is a high risk for those staying in camps, and there are also of course needs to to sanitation that are not also addressed adequately when there are emergencies. So the, these are the various gendered impacts of climate change that has been experienced in different societies, even here in Quezon City. So next, please. And based on assessment reports, women or children are 14 times more likely to die than men during the natural disasters, and this is because of the gendered um, impacts that I have presented earlier. There is less access to information, resources, finance, and technologies, primarily because of the impacts, the restrictions to mobility, the double role of women of being caregivers. They're expected of to take care of the families of the children, while their male counterparts are the ones who um, are more free to be mobile after a disaster or during a disaster. Women are also underrepresented in climate change, energy transition, and there are related disaster decision making. And there are deep-seated biases, stereotypes, and discrimination that is not just happening in non-emergency, but all the more exacerbated during disasters. So next slide. And the next slide, I will be giving you just some quick figures that we have in Quezon City. Um, for affected vulnerable sectors like women and children, the elderly, and solo parents, so lactating mothers, pregnant women, and persons with disability. So next slide, please. So in 2022, more than a half of the population who were displaced during typhoons. And take note, in Quezon City or in the Philippines, we experience 15 to 20 tropical cyclones in a year. And 9 of them adversely affects Quezon City. So this is an average figure that we have. So in 2022, more than half are part of this sector: children, vulnerable sector, elderly. When we say vulnerable sector, as you can see here, 16.3%, they are the solo parents, the lactating mothers, pregnant women, and persons with disability. In mid 2023, we have our data says that more than a third of the affected population are part of this, of children, vulnerable sector, and the elderly. And the worst typhoon or flooding that we have experienced just recently this July, we have recorded that almost half of households were headed by women, and they are affected. They were severely affected by Typhoon Karina. So this is the blue pie chart that you can see on the right. This was the worst flooding in more than 10 in almost 10 years. No, I stand corrected. And more than 10 years in the city, wherein we had evacuated more than 20,000 individuals in temporary shelters. And in this 20,000 individuals, these individuals were divided into families and were headed by 48% of them are female. So um, these are the displaced population during that worst flooding just this July. Okay, next please. Also, in mapping our disabled population, 2% of our population in Quezon City are persons with disabilities, and we map them out according to where they are located and the hazards they are exposed to. And we have seen that um, 100% of the persons with disabilities in the city are affected are affected by various hazards, such as flooding and by earthquakes. So we have mapped out the persons with disabilities according to this type of disabilities, from cancer, physical impairment, mental disabilities, learning disabilities, psychosocial, speech and language, visual disabilities, etc. Next, please. And I'm not just talking about affected population for gendered impacts to affected populations in disasters. I also want to talk about about gendered impacts to responders, or those who are in the front line in disasters. So right now in Quezon City, while 48% of our leadership and disaster risk reduction are women, 34%, or more than one third of our responders or frontline personnel are women for Quezon City. All right, next. And what are the concerns that female responders face during disasters? So they also experience different impacts other than if they are also affected directly by disasters, but also as among those who respond and rescue personnel, they also experience guilt. There's a mental and emotional impact to our female responders, because there's guilt in choosing between time taking care of their own children over the time taking care of other mothers, other daughters, and other sons. So males and male-dominated environments, particularly the disaster risk reduction and management field, are reluctant to include women in decision making, and um, in doing so, when they are underrepresented, the specific needs of women in disasters might remain invisible to many men. So, what are the specific needs that may remain invisible if they are not raised in decision making or policy making environments? So, for example, there are special needs of women that perhaps cannot are typically overlooked. Like for example, for responders, not in camps, while we are trying to take care of males and females to have mobility in well lighted areas, so that we could avoid gender based violence in emergencies. That same goes also for responders. Responders also have to be separated from male and female. They must be also protected against gender based violence in emergencies. Even if they are the ones who are doing the rescuing or responding, they must also be protected from this risk. Um, there's also an allocation of different task roles and responsibilities to women and men, according to what is considered socially and culturally appropriate. As was discussed before, the caregiving responsibility and role of women, it's a bit standard across many societies. While women are expected take to stay at home, for stay at home to take care of the elderly and the children, that same goes for women as responders. And also as a proof, here in the National Capital Region, while we have 17 cities that are mandated to have local disaster risk reduction and management office, only one is a female. Yeah. So next, please. So in general, the concern is that among all of this, the disproportional impacts to women, to the person, to persons with disability, to the elderly, to children. Basically, a study done by the Global Network of Civil Society Organizations for Disaster Reduction concluded that less than 1% of DRR funding is directed towards initiatives specifically addressing the needs of women and persons with disabilities. Okay, next, please. This was a study in 2021, so I hope this had already changed. So what is the city doing to address these concerns? So next, please. Okay, so as our national policy, we are thankful for this landmark law, the Philippine DRM Act of 2010. It specifically provides for a mandated approach that the DRM framework that we must all comply with and operate under must be all encompassing, and it should involve um, all sectors in DRM programming. We should ensure that in section 2 of this law says that DRR and climate change measures must be gender responsive, sensitive to indigenous knowledge systems, and respectful of human rights. And also and under section 2, we have it was the law specifically provides that all the local government units and all government agencies must develop and strengthen the capacities of vulnerable and marginalized groups to mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from the effects of disasters. So this is where our programs are anchored against this national law. All right, next. So just to give you a quick overview of what we are facing in Quezon City, Quezon City is the largest city in the country. We are at over 3 million in population and composed of 142 barangays. It is one fourth of Metro Manila or the National Capital Region. Um, so this is the national region for the Philippines, and we are one fourth of this region. We're over 16,000 hectares, and northeast of Metro Manila. So next, please. So, what are the initiatives to lessen the gendered impacts? So, some of this I have enumerated. The house-to-house campaign. So, how are we able to lessen gendered impacts? So, considering that women, there are lesser mobilities, they're restricted in mobilities. Since they are the ones expected to stay at home. So, we have invested much in house-to-house campaigns. We are the ones going to these families. We are the ones who go to women to families instead of asking them to come to us. We are considerate of the needs that they cannot leave the families because of course their caregiving responsibilities and roles. So we do house to house campaigns in hazard intensive areas or hazard exposed areas in the city. We have also established a cluster in our response clusters that is dedicated to secure protection or secure inclusion rights or to protect the human rights of all affected individuals. So this cluster, which is consisted of several city government and departments, it's what their objective is just really to protect the human rights of affected individuals during disasters, and this also includes the protection against gender-based violence in emergencies for women. We have also um, um, as, we have also organized hygiene kits with feminine supplies for affected individuals in evacuation centers. So it is we consider providing them sanitary napkins and such. So the needs of the sectors is it's not a generic kit that we just give, but it is something that is considerate of the family. There are also toys, there are also child-friendly spaces in camps that we have established, making sure that children have something to do. They are distracted. They're entertained. They are continuing their learning even in evacuation camps. We also ensured gen ensured that there is small gender disparity in training initiatives. That as much as possible, it's not just dominated by one sex, but there is a ratio of at least 40 to 50% ratio that of male and females. And of course, those who and we also recognize those individuals who doesn't want to identify themselves as just male and female. All right, next please. We have also established and mandated the establishment of maternal breastfeeding stations in camps. So this is also something that we have really invested in, that all camps, evacuation centers, temporary shelters, they should have maternal breastfeeding stations for lactating women. And we have also included in our trainings and the seminars for carers and household caregivers. So it's not just directly to those persons with disability, but also the carers and those who are accompanying them, especially for children with disabilities. We have also organized community savings groups led by women in hazard-prone areas for cascading financial literacy and early recovery. So this community savings groups, they are mostly women who handle the financial or budget within their households, and we taught them on how to save, or we taught that so that in times of emergencies or disasters they have access to additional financial funds. Next please. We have also trained professionals for mental health and psychosocial support service. So as we have mentioned earlier, there is also mental and emotional um, concerns and risks that we have, not just for the affected individuals in disasters, but also for responders. So we have trained professionals to provide this type of support to responders and to those who are affected by the calamity. All right, next please. And then, of course, we have this disability inclusive disaster preparedness training for all ages and disabilities. So we have trained sign language and sensitivity trainings for responders. We have for children with disabilities and joined them in earthquake drill simulation exercises, and as well as with their carers. We have also organized forums with the private sector, bringing this inclusive resilience to them, that they do not leave anyone behind, even in their companies and their businesses. And we have also created manuals for cascading this inclusive resilience and disability inclusive DRR for other um, for barangay officials, for smaller political units to cascade on their constituents. Next, please. And also, our evacuation camps, we have identified over 500 in Quezon City. There is also currently an initiative to audit all of these evacuation camps and temporary shelters and make sure that um, they are accessible to persons with disabilities. So as you can see in the right, there are specifications for comfort rooms and accessible ramps. So we are making sure that all the evacuation centers and the temporary shelters are accessible to our persons with disability. And of course, next slide. Most importantly, we have to institutionalize the our initiatives, and we have to fund this initiatives that we have for disability inclusive and inclusive DRR. In the next slide, you can see that in the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, we have included our the Persons with Disability Affairs Office, the office dedicated to disability affairs, and also a representative from the Gender and Development Council. So this DRM Council, but I think my slide hasn't switched yet to the next slide. So this council, which is the policy making body and decision making body for all concerns pertaining disaster risk reduction and management, we have made sure that a representative from the Disability Affairs Office and Gender and Development Office is contributing to this council. We have also developed a plan, it's a comprehensive emergency program for children, wherein we invested every year funds to make sure that we are taking care of the needs of the children, the elderly, the lactating women, pregnant women, and children with disabilities in times of emergencies. Next, please. Maybe, right. So you can also see in the slide, all right, so there you go. Okay, so in terms of investments from 2023 to 2024, we have increased 85% for our disability initiatives, and also from 2021 and actually until as of present time, we have invested um, in projects at least worth 35% of our DRM budget. Um, for the emergency program for children with disabilities, lactating women, pregnant women, and the elderly. So it is very important for us to not just do these activities just for show or just do token activities, but we have to really reflect it in our investments and in our budgets. And we have institutionalized this through the development of our plans and through including key personnel in decision making and policy making bodies. All right, next, please. So moving forward, our initiatives is to, of course, we have to sustain the financial allotment in the DRM budget and somehow also secure, of course, additional international funding to help us move forward with our initiatives. We have to continue the collection of disaggregated data because with data we can see what was once invisible. If we have data on how many women, how many children, how many persons with disabilities, elderly, lactating, pregnant, children with disabilities are affected in disasters, then we can see how much we can invest for them. We can target necessary interventions. We can determine what needs to be addressed during emergencies. If data continues to be just generic and standard with no disaggregation, then the concerns of these sectors remain invisible. So we have to continue collection of disaggregated data to target necessary interventions. And of course, we have to continuously upgrade our early warning systems and integrate accessible alert systems and the iRise Up. iRise Up for those who are unfamiliar, iRise Up is the city's um, flagship program for early warning system. So in our early warning systems, we have to make sure that it is inclusive, that it also covers concerns and addresses concerns, particularly for the disabled. It does not only address it does not for example, it does not only have public address systems, but there are also systems that are targeted to inform those who are hard of hearing in areas wherein we have those disabled inventory. Okay, next. So to end my presentation, I have to um, take off from a quote of our mayor. Next, please. Wherein in one of her speeches, she said the following. So the devastating effects of climate change, especially on the most disadvantaged among us, is what Quezon City is committed to addressing, together with the rest of the world. So this is a shared priority that challenges the status quo. We must enforce change, combat inequality, and embody compassion and public service. So our Mayor Joy Belmonte, is the lead in making sure that we do not leave anyone behind. And with her and with her leadership, she ensures that these programs are not just left on books, on plans that are unimplemented, but these are really reflected in programs that are invested in on a yearly basis, and that they are institutionalized in policies that would be enforced on a yearly basis. So in ensuring that these programs remain, it is necessary to have leadership and consistent leadership in this matter. So that ends my presentation. Thank you.
All right, complete. Thank you very much.
好，谢谢。Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, now我们
Now I would like to invite the third speaker, Mr. Guru. He is from New Delhi. His topic is mainstreaming GDSI in disaster preparedness and response. Let's welcome him.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ravi Ranjan Guru, and I'm from India, All India Institute of Local Self-Government. First of all, thanks CityNet for inviting us to be present here and talk about the activities and what we are doing on the disaster preparedness and response, especially gender equality and social inclusion. I think moderator and my previous panelists more or less spoke about the concern and the related matters. So it's really easy for me to now go into the slides. So just, since morning we have been listening on all those the parameters and the challenges that we are facing, especially in terms of increasing urbanizations and that really leading to the climate change and also the environmental degradation. Just a fact that almost 75% disaster-related activity has increased in last 2 decades, and also almost 4 billion people are affected. That also include some kind of economic losses, which we just try to present here. Coming to the South Asia, because the India and the South Asian countries are more vulnerable in terms of disaster, especially in the Global Climate Risk Index in 2021, which given the almost like high vulnerable areas, and if you see its ranking is 1 to 10, and most of the part of India, if you see, obviously that increases the vulnerability of the people of the South Asia, especially India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and I think morning Nepal also presented about that. We also have increase on extreme weather events in South Asia, almost 30% in past 3 decades. Coming to that session's topic, obviously it's a very important, and it's really the matters of discussion. And when we talk about the disaster management, obviously we look for the preparedness, response, recovery, and the mitigation. But that should include the kind of a gender equality, disability, and the social inclusion, because that's really the group that's more vulnerable when disaster comes. So obviously it's important of this, important parameters when you talk about the disaster management. It's enhancing the disaster response effectiveness. That's really include the inclusive planning and the tailored responses. Reducing the vulnerability and the risk, that's really important. And obviously we need to address the disparities when you talk about the disaster management plans and the response and recovery. Empowering the communities, that's really includes a lot of capacity building programs, awareness and campaigning. Promoting the fairness and equity, and obviously supporting the long-term recovery and resilience. I'll come straight away to how we are working in India and supporting the some of the part of this, not as kind of exclusively, but we do have a lot of programs which has the directly indirectly impacting on this. Obviously, ALSG, All India Institute of Local Self-Government, is a very old organization in India, established in 1926. We are going to celebrate our 100 years in next 2 years. We have, if you see the map of India, almost all the centers, all the part of India, we have our centers, and we're working on the master plan preparation. So when we prepare the plan, like we are working on more than 35 master city plan in India, that planning we are trying to include the disaster and include these parameters, because that's the planning document which every city has, and that's really a kind of a Bible, and in India we have a Gita kind of a things. That should have those components, and there we are actually working and including an inclusion of all those parameters when we talk about the disaster management, and including the women's participation, disability management, and all those things. I'll give you some of the projects as well. We're also doing a lot of capacity building programs, especially on the disaster and climate change impact. We have a various projects, seminar, policy, courses. We come out a lot of training programs, which also has a short-term courses and the long-term courses. We do a lot of publications. We have a monthly urban update magazine, which is inclusively for the urban areas in India. We also have the institution within the AILSC. I'll just keep to save our time. These slides are available so that you can have these slides later on. Like I say, that we are working on the GIS-based master plan India, where we are considering the mixed cities and the human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. These are the projects planning that we are working in India, like Ladakh, which is the very hilly terrain area. That Kargil master plan we are working. We are working in the some of the plain area in the middle of the India, and also all the kind of geographical locations where we are working, and we are supporting in terms of those things. We have, I'm just going through because we have limitation of time. So if you see, these are some of the master plan where we are trying to include the disaster and the vulnerability indexing and all those things. We also have one of the project with Government of India called, it's a Jal Jeevan mission, but in terms of it's a water for everyone. So this project is Government of India initiatives where we're doing the strengthening the communities and the local bodies for improved water supply system. And I think one of the important factor is that when disaster comes, the first thing is impacting is the water supply system. So I think that's really, this projects and these programs are helping in many vulnerable areas and communities to overcome these challenges. We are the supporting capacity building programs under these programs. And if you look into the components that we are covering under this program is gender equality. We are empowers the women in the water management, crucial during the disaster. Reduces the burden on the women's girls for water collection in emergency. Disability inclusion in terms of ensuring the accessibility of water infrastructure for person with the disabilities, and inclusive planning consider needs of disabled in disaster preparation. We are also looking into the social inclusion, ensure the marginalized group have the equitable water access in disaster, promote the inclusive, resilient water management practices. In one of the projects with the European Union funded, it's been now 5th year, we are working in this project, not only in India, but this is a country programs. We were India, and there are certain Southeast Asia part, and as well as some European countries are part of this project. It's our UCLG aspect who is leading this project, and we are one of the partners. There we are talking about the 3 pillars where we looking into the knowledge production and exchange, local action plans for climate change, and inclusive cities, communications and capacity building program. We're looking into the strength in the good governance and sustainable use of resources by cities, social cohesiveness and the inclusive cities, resilient and action for the environment, and prosperity and innovation in cities. This is the 5th year, and we have developed the action plan as well under this project. This is one of the network that we are also supporting in South Asia. We are network and governance coordinator. There also we are preparing the action plans, and I think some of you must be the part of this network as well. This is GCOM, Global Covenant of Mayors of Climate and Energy in South Asia. These are some of the participating cities in South Asia. Almost 48 cities are part of this network, and we are supporting them under this, preparing the master plan, preparing the climate action plans and the awareness and the looking for the funding as well. So this project we recently has done the in Kathmandu business matchmaking, where we try to bring the stakeholders together to fund some of the climate related projects. This is the recent Kathmandu workshop where we have the more than 48 business matchmaking meetings. These are some of the newsletters. We do a lot of publication and capacity building programs, especially on the disaster related. These are some of the pictures, the wall printing and the involvement of students, schools. And I think Kendra in the morning, he presented about the recent program that we have organized in Delhi, obviously with the support of CityNet and the team from the Nepal. And it was really good to see the kind of interest that we have generated. A lot of good number of participation from the schools has done. So this is one of the initiatives that we want to continue in India. These are one of the Girl Power project, once again supported by the European Union. There also we working on the rural areas, which is going to be a very important because the disasters really hit on those areas very severely. And this is some of the trainings programs that we are doing at the local level. We also have a National Fire Academy in Baroda. I have last, I think, 1 or 2 slides only. This is where we actually giving the on-ground training programs and the preparing the firemen, manpower. So they are going to work with the fire department, and we try to include all the important component during the course development. It is a 6-month programs, and we have more than 3,000 students every year. They passing out from this National Fire Academy. So in conclusion, yes, last slide. So in conclusion, yes, it's very important because we have been talking about since morning, and most of the panelists are focusing on the disaster. But obviously, with the disaster, we have to be included in the more inclusively for this, gender equality and the disability and social inclusion. The role of NGO and institutions are very important because ultimately it's, only the government, local government cannot achieve. So we have to bring all the stakeholders together, and that's really create the importance and the results at ground. I see that moving forward in terms of inclusion of all your master plans and the important document that you are preparing for the cities should have these components. So thank you so much, and thank you for listening me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. 好，那谢谢这3位讲者。虽然
Then we would like to thank our 3 presenters. Now we would like to invite our 2 panelists for their comments. Now we would like to invite Deputy Commissioner, Department of Social Welfare, Taipei City Government, Ms. Lin. We have our 3 excellent presentations from Taiwan to Quezon City and to India. This topic is GEDSI. GEDSI is responding to the UN Sustainable Goal. Previously, we heard that from the organization level, particularly Taipei City in the year 2022, we entered into super agent society, and Taiwan will enter that in 2025. But Taipei City, 3 years before Taiwan, in 2022, we already entered into super aging society. So that has put a huge challenge on the long-term care. So if we would like to improve the hardware and to take care of the elderlies and also to take care of the caregivers, this has been a big challenge to the government, particularly the nursing organizations, they care about their bottom line, the benefits of running this business as well. And for GEDSI in Quezon City, I found it very interesting because I think, here we can see 90% of the participants here are men. Less than 10% is women. So that's mentioned by Beyonce, talking about the decision makers are actually men, but for service providers, mainly that's women. Women have to take care of their own kids, and at the same time, they need to take care of other people's kids. I am a mother of 2 kids. When the disaster hits, I need to go to my duty in my office. I need to talk to my husband about, please take care of the kids. I need to go to my duty. Please take care of the 2 kids. So when we do disaster rescue, in addition to educational promotion, to increase awareness to individuals and communities. Actually, it's also very important to develop resilience in the community. The small groups in the community, we need to help each other. So today, our theme is people-centered resilient cities. We actually need to respect individual differences, including gender difference, age difference, disabilities differences. When we are designing disaster management, we need to put more attention on these, including physical limits and also hardware, software limitations, how the government can get involved to do the intervention. They are all intertwined. And for disabled people, we don't want to see them harmed. But at extreme climate, we need to get used to being coexisting with disasters. We need to cultivate our abilities and equip ourselves with more equipment for people to know what to do when disasters hits. So we will have different guidelines for hearing challenges, physically challenges, or visually impaired persons. And we also need to let them know how to respond. And also we need to establish a very good cooperation mechanism with the communities within small groups, how we can help each other. So this is the mutual help part. So when we are talking about GEDSI, even though this is a good concept, but it's difficult to implement or put them into implementation. Our 2 international speakers talked about the disasters in recent years. I would like to ask them about, under the theme of GEDSI, when you are placing the victim, the people, how do you deal with that, particularly in India? How do you do that? I mean, in terms of disaster prevention, what efforts need to be put in? Let me share with you how Taipei City does. We recently have a pet program, for the elderly who don't have kids, but they do have pets. Then they bring their pets to the shelter, temporary shelters. Then we need to have a zone for their dogs and cats. So we need to diversify our services to become more sensitive to people in need. Thank you very much.
第2位，然后我们等一
Now we will go to the second discussant, the second panelist, Professor Sun. I'd like to thank the organizer for this opportunity. I listened to the 3 speakers. I myself have learned a lot. I actually jot down some notes. I'd like to share with you 4 points. Number 1, 40 years ago, in early days when I first attended the Central Police University, I believe that we could use engineering to create a safe environment. So engineering was the key at that time. 40 years on, I have learned more. Probably engineering alone cannot solve these problems. So we need to go back to people that center resilience. When you recall that the tsunami scenario, evacuation is very important to bring the people to safe places. With the traces from the mobile in the South Asia tsunami, well, the traces from the cell phone research by one Japanese professor indicated that a lot of the people actually were moving toward the sea, not move away from the sea, because they wanted to rescue their friends, their family members, especially some elders, or some wanted to rescue their pets. One of my relatives that lived in the Iwate prefecture in Japan, and he is more than 100 years old. When the tsunami hit that area, that elder did not want to leave his hometown. So my conclusion right now is engineering alone that cannot solve this problem. Secondly, since we talked about Ganzi, we covered elders, women, and children. And if you record the Great East Japan earthquake, we found that a lot of the elders were evacuated to a large gymnasium, and a lot of time that they had to get up to go to the toilet during the night, and they did not want to disturb other people, so they usually chose those places near the restroom. But at that time, there was a lot of the wind and also humidity affected that area, so that they got sick easily. Over the past 3 to 4 years, the Ministry of Health and Welfare has invested a lot of the resources in care homes or nursing homes. These are long-term care facilities. If there's a fire, those residents actually that can shelter in place, well, that they can contain the fire within limited space. That will minimize the damage, and the resident can shelter in place without any problem. And we also need to have the automatic 119 or 911 notification system. So you do not need a person to call the 911. And we also have the automatic sprinkler system. It is automatic, so we do not need a person to activate the system. So for the past 4 to 5 years, thanks to the efforts of the ministry, we can find that in the Taipei city, the Taipei hospital, the nursing home, there was a fire, but there was 0 casualty. Even people got hurt that had nothing to do with the fire itself. So we actually managed the scenario at the hospital as well. A lot of time the damage is done because of the a lot of smoke, not because of the fire. So the shelter in place is the concept we have adopted in recent years. Professor Chen can also share with your thoughts because you are an expert in containing the smoke from the fire. And number 4, in Taipei City, we have the many old buildings, and then they are susceptible to strong earthquake. They may collapse. And we also have the very the small and narrow alleys. It is difficult for firefighters to do their rescue work or to put out the fire. So I think we really need to pay attention. Number 1, the natural gas pipeline in Taipei City, especially amid the earthquake. Some of the pipelines may be erupted, and that may also cause fire because of the leak of the natural gas. And also, we have the alleys parked with so many cars. If the fire that happened after earthquake, when the buildings also collapse, that's a multiple hazard scenario that it becomes very difficult for us to contain the damage, to put out the fire or to rescue people. So this Taipei City need to think about. And in recent years, we also use a lot of scenario tabletop exercise. And we have the typhoon scenario or the reservoir scenario. In other countries, there may be a volcano scenario. And in Taipei City, we have so many old buildings, 30 years old, that there are fires and building collapse. It is difficult to access those small alleys. And that would pose a really huge challenge to Taiwan. And in Taipei City, we have more than 20% of the citizens are the elders. So that has compounded our challenge. We just listened to Bianca from Quezon. When I listened to her, I'm thinking that in Taiwan, we have the firefighters, and from different ranks. We also have the female firefighters serving in different ranks. So I would like to recognize women's contribution to the fire safety in Taiwan. We also have the 2 female panelists on stage. So I also like to acknowledge your contribution and achievement. And some of the thoughts I want to share with you. Maybe Professor Chen, you can provide your feedback, and you can speak in Chinese so that we can have smooth communication. I apologize to international guests. I have to speak in Chinese. Thank you. We do have a tight schedule. Maybe we should have our speaker to respond to the question or comment first. Lady first. I would like to thank the 2 panelists for your question and feedback. Since we are talking about the vulnerable groups, we also need to have a people-centered, humanistic approach. We also need to tailor our service model to fit their needs. When disaster hits, the earthquake the scenario, that we need to factor in the features of the space, the lighting, So we do not have one-size-fits-all the solution. Where human-centric, people-centered is the key. Taipei the city has a community-based the cared service model. This is the area that Taipei City is doing very well. And the community do have the self-help capability to a certain degree. The government also need to provide helps. So it is very important for us to take inventory of those vulnerable links and seek the help from the government. So let me first answer and comment at this point. And Mr. Guru?
Sure. Okay, thank you. So one of the point, maybe I'll give an example from one of the state in India. It's a coastal state in the eastern part of India. That's called Odisha. Which has like every year you have some kind of a cyclone sitting on the state. And I remember in 1990s time, one of the cyclone hit and then a lot of casualty happened. And after that, we have seen the kind of a preparedness from the state. I'm giving just example from India. So like recently, they also have one of the very strong, I think, cyclone that was affecting the, hitting the Odisha. And they have a kind of a very well-planned preparedness for the disaster. And you don't maybe agree or maybe see that zero casualty happened. That kind of a preparedness now the state has. So because of obviously technology and the participation from all the parts, like C also mentioned that it's not just a government that can really do every work. So you have to engage all the stakeholders. So the kind of awareness that they have spreaded across the state, as well as the engagement of NGOs, institution, and the kind of a community's awareness, and then obviously the government also prepare themselves. That they have a zero casualties. So they have like proper shelter. So obviously they take care of that because it's really affecting every year kind of a things. And they have to build the infrastructures like street lights and the roads such a way that there is a less impact when then disaster hits. So I see that there is a development in almost every part of the India in terms of preparedness. But yes, I agree. There are a lot to do, and I think technology is playing very important role because at least you know that the cyclone is hitting in your state. I don't remember maybe 90s time, nobody knew about that the cyclone is going to impact, and now they have a so accurately that they knew that what time is going to hit. So that kind of a technology you have, but obviously you have to be engaged everybody. So that is what I can give you one example from India. And yes, government, not only the local government, but I think the national government in India, they also working very strongly on the kind of a disaster response. So we have like a National Disaster Response Force, NDRF, which is like immediate response team, which generally comes to the disaster place. Also, based on that, there are many state has formed the State Disaster Response Force, and then there is like community programs as well. So thank you.
Thank you. 好，那Miss
Ms. Perez, online. Are you online, Bianca? Would you like to respond to some of the questions?
Yes. I'm sorry, I was not able to capture the question, but from the answers from my fellow panelists, I get some context that there is a query about the approach of the cities when it comes to inclusive disaster risk reduction. Or what I can say is that Quezon City, and in terms of policy making and decision making, it is very important that we are data driven and our decisions are based on sound science. So when we say that we have to be data driven, then we have to make sure that the collection of our data must be complete and disaggregated so as not to miss any or overlook any concerns from any of our sectors. And we must not only consider data that comes from equipment or from technology, but to say that we are people-centric, we must also consider information coming from the ground or from the communities. So we must not be as a decision maker myself. We are enjoined not to be armchair managers or armchair leaders. That we just stay here in our desk and just assume what is going on with in emergencies or disasters. We have to go down to the communities and hear out what they are missing on in times of calamity. So one incident in mind is that in developing camp management guidelines, we are relying mostly on the inputs of our social workers. But there was one time when we had to go down and had to get in touch with the communities and residents themselves, and they narrated how the procedures of evacuation had been carried out when a disaster comes, and we heard so many problems that we didn't hear from the responders or from social workers, but concerns that coming from the residents themselves. So it is important that while we are saying that our decisions and policies are data driven, we should consider that this data that we have is not just collected from the government or agency side or from organized groups, but we also have to go down to the ground, to the communities themselves, because they have to be part of the coming up with a bigger picture of what needs to be addressed when it comes with any policies or decisions, and it includes this inclusive disaster resilience. We really have to make sure that we include everyone, and that means that we have to go down, we have to see what really happens. We do not just get this information from technology, from sensors, from equipment, although it is easier and faster. We have to consider what is the first-hand experience of residents and evacuees, because from there we can truly say that we are a data-driven city, that we are a people-centric city that governs over our people with sound science, and that are with a heart for the communities, with a heart that knows what the communities really and the individuals and households are really going through during times of emergencies and disasters. And it's very important in building a truly inclusive disaster resilient community.
Thank you. 对不起。
In the interest of time, any additional comments or response? Seeing none, let me say that this is a very important topic. Inclusive disaster risk reduction management is very important. This is also a relatively new topic to us. I apologize for not being able to open for more questions or comments. It is my hope that we can work together and pay more attention to this topic. Thank you.
Moderation and discussion. 现在我邀请台上的贵宾一起到舞台正。
Now we'd like to invite the panelists, moderators, and speakers to move closer to the center stage.
You on this session discussion. 好，再往前一点 ，please take a walk forward. All right, smile. That first picture. 第一张先一个很开心的笑容，第二张呢，摄影师会邀请他们做 thumbs up. All right, thumbs up to the success of the seminar. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, you can return to seat. And for the participants on site, we have a short break right now. Currently, it's 2:26. Our next session will start at 2:40, which means about 15 minutes afterwards. So 15 minutes short break. You can take outside the beverage and the refreshment, and also can visit some of the exhibition right over there. Thank you very much. We'll see you on 2:40. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now we're going to proceed with the final session of the day one agenda. Now I'm going to invite several guests on the stage to take the stage for session 3. Again, first I would like to invite a moderator of the session 3, who is the Executive Director, CityNet Plus Art Center for Creative Partnership from Kobe, Mr. Kendra Hirata, to come to the stage to take the chair as the moderator. And we have the speakers. The first one is Zhang Kaiyao, the Deputy Director, Hydraulic Engineering Office, Public Works Department, Taipei City Government, 台北市政府公务局水利工程处副处长. And the next speaker is Donna Magno, the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Officer, Iloilo City Government, Iloilo, 是伊朗市政府减灾风险管理官。下一位 the next speaker is Deepak Marahata, the founder and president of Disaster Education Promotion Office, Kuala Lumpur, Nepal, 来自尼泊尔都灾害推广教育办公室创办人及董事长。Please come to the stage. And the next speaker is the Ryan Tego, the head of the Operations and Warning Division, Makati Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, Makati, 来自马卡提市的贵宾。那么两位座谈贵宾 ，the panelists，the first one is 张温德 ，the Deputy Secretary General， 台北 City Government， 是台北市政府副秘书长张温德，张副秘，请步上舞台。Another panelist， 黄一平。 The Commissioner, Public Works Department, Taipei City Government, Taipei, 台北市政府公务局局长黄一平也请步上舞台参与座谈。All right, everybody take your seat. So at this moment, I'll turn the floor to the moderator. Welcome our moderator, please.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, welcome back after the break time. I hope you are refreshed. I know in the afternoon it gets a bit sleepy and tired, but I hope you can stay awake for this session. We have a very good mixture of panelists today. We are not very gender balanced here, only one female, but we have a large city, a medium-sized city, a small city, and community-level NGO, which is working in Nepal. And each of them have very interesting practices they have been doing for many years in their respective cities or communities. And I will be asking them to present. So let me introduce our panelists and speakers. And their details are in this book also, so you can check further details. Okay, so I will just go from here. So first one is Mr. Zhang Kaiyao. Okay, and he's the Deputy Director of Hydraulic Engineering Office, Public Works Department of City of Taipei. Next is Ms. Donna Magno. She's the Head of Department of Iloilo City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office. Next is Mr. Deepak Maratha from Disaster Education Promotion Office, and he's the founder-president of the organization. Next, we have Mr. Ryan Tagle. He is the Head of Operations and Warning Division from Makati City Government. Next, we have Mr. Chang Wente. He is the Commissioner of the Public Works Department from Taipei City Department. And lastly, we have Mr. Huang Yiping. He is, he's the Commissioner from Public Works Department, Taipei City Government. Okay, thank you very much. So let me go on to the presentations, and our presenters can either present from their seats, or they can go up to the podium and they can present. Your presentations will be available here on the screen. And if I may remind you about the time, each of you have 10 minutes to present. And after that, our panelists will comment and also ask questions. And as much as the time allows, I would also like to give some time for our attendees on the floor to ask questions. So please prepare your questions if you will have one later. Okay, so may I invite, perhaps I think we can go from Ms. Donna Magno. Or let me go from Mr. Chang then. Yes, from Taipei. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator, and our presenters and panelists. My name is Zhang Kaiyao, Hydraulic Engineering Office, Public Works Department, Taipei City Government. My outline here, 4 parts. First of all, I would like to talk to you about the challenges faced by Taipei City. Taipei City have the tide issue, and the high tide, low tide, 3 meters in difference. And when it is high tide, the rivers actually, it's difficult that the city waters will be flow out because of the high tides. During the past data, actually, averagely, every year we have 2.8 typhoons hit Taipei City. Therefore, we know that like in 2022, Niza typhoon reached 743 millimeters per hour. And because of this rainfall, during the past 10 years, we actually have 2 to 7 times of a big rainfall, exceeding the protection standards of protection in Taipei City. So you will know that this extreme precipitation is getting bigger and bigger. And also from the precipitation here per hour, here we have 183 millimeters per hour. That means that it's 1.75 times of the protection level. Therefore, Taipei City have high risk of a flooding. And in terms of the protection, actually we have river levees and the pumping stations and the rainfall drainage systems. Most of the systems has been completed, very high completion rates. However, in facing extreme climate and heavy rainfall, flooding is inevitable. Therefore, we have been thinking about how to increase the tolerance of the rainfall of the city, engineering, non-engineering methods, and also through public help, mutual help, self-help, the 3-dimensional mechanism in order to face climate change. And in terms of increasing the Taipei City flood prevention capacity, we have these 4 strategies on this page. I would like to talk about them one by one. The first one is extending lifespan of flood prevention infrastructure. Every year, we conduct a check on the functionality and the structural safety of our hydraulic structures. And also, we so far has repaired 23,000 repairments in the pipeline, and we will finish the repairment by 2025. And also, in terms of pumping units renewal, Totally here in Taipei City, we have 427 pump units. We will conduct checks and also to substitute the old ones to make sure its efficiency. And for regular flood prevention dredging, starting from 2010, we already have completed 600,000 cubic meters dredging. And the second will be systematically advocate for the improvement of diverse drainage. Between 2020 and 2023, we review over 78 catchment areas citywide and proposing short-term, mid-term, and long-term systematic drainage improvement plans, aiming to increase long-term rainfall tolerance to 88.8 millimeters from 78.8 millimeters. So we have diverse methods. We have several methods like to bottleneck improvement, detention ponds. That includes we have ecological detention ponds, underground detention ponds, or repurposing abandoned underpasses. And also we will do flood diversification and also interception, and also to expand the pumping stations. And here you will see under the Donghua North Node, we have this retention pipe. This is a huge one, and it can actually retain 43,000 cubic meters. It's a huge one. So this is the number one. And also, and Fuling, we also had a pound. And then also number 3, number 4, and like Darong pumping stations extension program, and also Bailin catchment area. These are to establish new pumping capacities. And the number 3 is a smart disaster prevention, and we have monitoring systems including rain gauge, sewer water level stations, river water level stations, CCTV monitoring stations. So we have these to analyze retained water and also to forecast the water, compiling all these data to provide the decision makers for making decisions, and also for pumping stations to decide on how to operate their pumping stations. And also, we actually are ahead of other cities. In 2019, we completed the automation of 88 pumping stations for advanced monitoring, and we achieved to reduce 11% in the staffing and the labor costs. And also, we will have continuous performance enhancement, and also to understand the upstream water, and in order to prevent flooding. This is a refined operating mechanism. And also on this page, we would like to talk about Line account, the application. People use Line a lot, so we establish officially the Line account on the hydrology type A, and the people will know their position, where they are about the quality conditions, the operations of pumping stations, the rainfall, the flooding situations, and it also can have a prompt notifications for essential details and for pre-warning system. And also the number 4, this is about cooperation between public and private sectors and autonomous prevention of disasters. So we here, Taipei City, we established the site development, water retention, and runoff control required that the post-development highest outflow does not go beyond the pre-development levels or the capacity of the downstream channels with the help of suitable facilities. And now we have achieved 3 million tons of the water retention, and also we would like to strengthen the disaster resistance of buildings. Through analysis, we will know that on the first floor of a building, if the floor is elevated by 30 centimeters, then the flooding prevention can be established. And starting from this year, January the 1st, we commenced this trial run and followed by the private sector. So we start from the public sector and then followed by private sector. And also we would also to equip the communities to become a resilient communities, and the government fully subsidize the flood barriers. If the community establish flood barriers, then the government will subsidize the funding. This actually can prevent flooding and also speed up the reconstruction or recovery stage. So here is the conclusion that will Taipei City aim to increase its drainage system's rainfall tolerance. And when the drainage system capacity reaches 88.8 millimeter per hour, then combined with non-engineering policies, then such as runoff control and floodplain baselines, then it is expected 90% of residents will be safe. But we know that flood control engineering has its limits. In the face of extreme weather, self-reliant disaster prevention awareness must be strengthened. So it's unrealistic to expect no water accumulation, but we need to build resilient cities that can stand the flooding. Thank you very much. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chang. That was very interesting. Shall we go to the next presenter, Ms. Donna Magno?
So good afternoon. I am Donna, and I'll be sharing with you our resilience story. So Iloilo City is also known as the City of Love. It is located in Western Visayas, and that we have a land area of 8,000 hectares with a population of almost 500,000, and we have 180 barangays. I was surprised that Makati has only 23. Imagine me working with 180 barangays. We have a lot of things that we are proud of in the city. We have world-class festivals, the Dinagyang Festival and the Parao Regatta. That is the oldest sailing event in Southeast Asia. We are also known for our art scene, the rich cultural heritage, our history. We're also known as the bike capital of the Philippines. And we are also known for our governance and the good food. So think about bok choy, pancit molo. So when you come to Iloilo, don't forget to eat all those food. So these are the things that we are proud of. But then, Iloilo City is also home to Ilonggos who face the risk of these various hazards that you see on the screen. This is because of our geographic location and the social vulnerabilities that we have because of urbanization. So these are the things that should be considered by our local leaders. These are the challenges to their risk governance. So you see, Iloilo City is a floodplain, and it is a coastal city with a very low coastal elevation. Many of our communities, like 25 barangays, are in the coastal communities, and these are densely populated barangays. So these barangays and our people are highly exposed or highly susceptible to flooding and storm surge. In our climate and disaster risk assessment report, it says that in the near and far future, there will be a significant increase in our average temperature, and that in the near and far future, our dry days will become drier and longer. And the wet days, it will be short, but it's going to be very, very wet. So knowing this critical information, it demands that our local leaders should consider this in our developments, in the kind of investments that we will have, including the kind of policies that we need to formulate and approve. So let me take you, what did Iloilo City do? So let me take you back in 2012 to 2017. So CityNet Yokohama implemented a project named Community-Based Adaptation and Resilience Against Disasters. So they assisted in the first 3 years, they assisted the 5 barangays, and they focused on developing effective community-level adaptation and resiliency schemes, wherein they wanted to increase the awareness of the citizens on disaster preparedness. So after 3 years, they moved towards city-level support, wherein they provided capacity building activities for our DRR-mandated organizations and offices, including different civil society organizations, the academe, and other vulnerable groups. So because of that, this laid down the foundation of our journey towards resilience. So the lessons that we learned from this project from Siberad is about Japan's community resilience building strategy, which is focused on the 3 levels of health: the self-help, the mutual health, and the public health. And I think you've heard that, no? Since the presentation of Ms. Liza. So building on that learning, we also bank on developing our community-based DRR programs, anchored on the values of the Ilonggos. We focus on community-based DRR, and that we bank on our Kabalaka virtue, which means, as a local term, it means being compassionate, being someone who shows concern and love for others. So this compassion and love that we have for our people is always translated in many programs of the city government. For example, in our tourism campaign. So that's our tagline, My Heart Beats in Iloilo City, or for Iloilo City, and also in our Kabalaka programs. So Kabalaka, we developed that as an acronym as well. When translated to English, it stands for our Community-Based Disaster Preparedness Program. So what did we do? So we built the community resilience of our local leaders. We focused on developing their capacities because being at the barangays or at the villages, they are the frontliners during disasters. So we invested on them. What did we do? At the community level, we have these barangay DRM committees. It's a network at the grassroots level focused on policy making. So our office provided several trainings to improve their risk governance capacities. And also we focused on programs that provided platforms for self-help strategies. And this is under the Kabalaka program, under the Kabalaka umbrella. One of that is the Kabalaka Tour. The others include Kabalaka Camp and Kabalaka Gallery. The Kabalaka Tour is all about, taking the city bus. We take the participants to the different parts of the city wherein we have these best DRM practices, and we expose them to the programs of the city so that they don't become strangers to the program of the city government. For the Kabalaka Camp and the Gallery, we were blessed to be assisted by Plus Arts of Japan, and then they helped us develop games wherein children can learn about disaster preparedness. And then the Kabalaka Gallery is an avenue for our people to learn about the disaster risk of Iloilo City. So they helped us develop materials so that they can learn about the different preparedness activities and what do they need to understand about the disaster risks when you live in Iloilo City. So we have the QR codes. You can scan that and learn more about our programs. So what did we do? Aside from building the capacities of our people, we also built the competencies of our resilience champions. So we cannot do the tasks alone. So we have to work with partners. So the logos there are just some of the partners that we have. And we're blessed that because of their presence, we were able to train more people and improve their competencies when it comes to risk reduction and resilience. So for example, we were able to work with National Science and Technology Center for Disaster Reduction through the National Resilience Council. Their assistance allowed us to develop our decision-making skills based on science and technology tools. So they exposed us to that process, and that they also allowed us to work with scientific communities like the Manila Observatory. And then CityNet, on the other hand, allowed us to be exposed to the best practices of other LGUs. So all those learnings were brought back to Iloilo City by our DRR managers and resilience champions. So for example, as you can see on the screen, we also worked with the academe and experts from the fields of engineering and architecture. So our offices work with them to, influence the future architects and engineers when it comes to development, that the future engineers and architects will have that kind of perspective aimed at, developing designs for more greener spaces perhaps in the city, or developing designs that will promote climate change adaptation. The application of the learnings of our DRR managers are also translated in the kind of programs implemented in the city. One of that is the water impounding facility in one of our plazas. This area is flood prone. Every year, residents living around that plaza suffer from flooding. And then, because of the exposure to the best practices of other LGUs, they developed the water impounding facility. And this one can accommodate 1,306 cubic meters of storm water. And during the drought, in the past few months, our city government was able to use that water to water the plants and other ornamentals in the city. And they saw the value of storing the stormwater. That's why the city government decided to replicate this project in 5 more plazas in the city. And also, investments in rainwater harvesting facilities, because our climate and disaster risk assessment report says that we will have longer dry days, shorter wet days, but very, very wet. So whenever we have the chance to catch whatever little water that we can catch, we should do it. And that's where the rainwater harvesting facilities come in. So we funded at least, I think, 17 of these facilities in 17 barangays. And we hope that more of this will be implemented throughout the city. So what else? Some of our learnings are also translated in the environmental programs of the city. So we have this Iloilo Tree Park and the Beach Forest as some of our environmental programs. These programs are meant to increase the green spaces in Iloilo City and to combat, of course, the urban island heat effect. And then our esplanade. When you go to Iloilo, don't forget to visit our esplanade. This is an 11 kilometers long esplanade from the both sides of Iloilo River. So this project is meant to, again, increase the green spaces, ensure the livability and walkability in the city. So many Ilonggos and tourists enjoy this spot whenever they are in the city. And of course, we improve our plazas. The main idea here is that we want our plazas not just to improve its aesthetics, but again, increase the green spaces, increase spaces for mental health activities, and at the same time accommodate climate change adaptation measures in the area. So that's Haro Plaza, this one is Molo Plaza, and this one, I think, is the Haro Plaza. So when you go to Iloilo, you have to go around these plazas and, check it out, how it has improved the mental health activities of the Ilonggos. So aside from the self-help activities, mutual help activities, what have we done to improve our public health? So in the term of Mayor Jerry P. Treñas, he initiated the iCare program. So iCare stands for Iloilo City Action and Resilience Center, or iCare. This is meant to decentralize risk governance. I mentioned earlier that we have 180 barangays, and we cannot work with 180 barangays all year round. So what we did is to work with them through the districts, because they are clustered into 7 districts, and this iCare facilitated the avenues for that. So what can you find in the iCare centers? The iCare center is a facility wherein these 4 offices are present. It is meant to provide a quick emergency response, disaster response activities, and at the same time, bring our services closer to our people. So the functions of our iCare centers are there on the screen. We have to understand that these centers act as the nerve center and most importantly as a decision support system for the local government unit. And because of its presence in the different districts in the city, it decentralized our governance to the district leaders of the 7 districts, of course. It demonstrates the PPP, the people, public, and private partnerships, and it showcases the agile leadership of the city government when it comes to risk reduction and resilience. So currently we have 5 operational eye care centers and 2 are undergoing construction, and we are looking forward to the completion of the biggest eye care in the city, which is Eye Care Mega World. It sits on a 2,500 square meter lot donated by Mega World Corporation. So this is near the mall that you always go to and the hotel that you frequent to, Richmond, Mega World. This lot is donated by Mega World, and we are allowed to, through use of frac agreement, and we are allowed to use this in the next 25 years. So in the eye care centers, one of the centers hosts the Emergency Operations Center. And in that center, you will find the Hazard Sensor Network donated by NCDR of Taiwan. So there are, I think, 24 sets of rain gauges and P-alert system in the entire city. And that dashboard allows us to monitor the rainfall amount whenever it's rainy season. So those green dots, they change its colors depending on the amount of rainfall that it received. So this one allows us to communicate the risks to our people real time. And then in our Emergency Operations Center, we also have the CCTVs for hazard and disaster monitoring. And this allows us to monitor the public safety concerns and, of course, the hazards and disasters happening around the area. So this is a quick look on our Emergency Operations Center. And aside from, constructing the eye care centers, part of decentralizing our risk governance is the creation of the district-level DRM Council. Again, the idea is that instead of working with 180 barangays, we will work with the clustered barangays through this one. So once they are activated, then we will start accommodating them in the eye care centers. So where are we now in our bid in making Iloilo City a resilient city? So allow me to share with you the framework developed by Professor Jessica Datur-Bercilia on local government units' journey from preparedness to transformation. This one is anchored on the definition of resilience of United Nations Office on Disaster Risk Reduction. So it says here that it's a continuum. Your journey starts with early action and ends with the efforts toward the transform phase. This is being used by the city government as we navigate as one of our pathways towards transformation phase, as we work towards making Iloilo City a disaster-resilient city, one that is livable and one that has sustainable practices. So why are we doing all these things? We do this because we want to have a new generation of children whom we call Toto and Nene. We fondly call our young children as Toto and Nene. We want to have that kind of generation of children that are resilient to disasters and imbued with the spirit of Kabalaka. And to know more about our programs, kindly visit our Facebook account. That's Iloilo City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office. And then to know more about the city, because we've learned that in November, we will be hosting the executive meeting of CityNet. So those who are coming to Iloilo City and those who have not yet decided to visit Iloilo City, kindly scan that code and learn more about our city. Hopefully those videos will inspire you and make you excited to visit Iloilo City. So see you in Iloilo in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Donna Magno, for your very inspiring presentation. Let's move on with Mr. Deepak Maratha from Nepal.
Thank you, Mr. Kendra. And this is quite different than other presentation, like we are doing something in a grassroots level, and I'm from Nepal, representing Disaster Education and Promotion Office. So we are working with schools. So my presentation is about how we can make community resilience through education. So my presentation will basically focus on that. So, Disaster Education Promotion Office, simply we call DEPO, Nepal was founded in 2022 with the mission to promote creative and enjoyable disaster reduction education across Nepal. In partnership with Japanese counterparts like Plus Arts, CityNet, and our focus is making disaster education engaging and accessible for all. So basically, we engage in different activities, and that aims to strengthening disaster resilience of people through education and community engagement. Our core activities are designed to empower individuals and their communities with the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively prepare disasters. So one of the major activity that we are doing is teachers training program. So we focus to train teachers and also to produce DRR educational materials that includes games and creative tools, and through which like the knowledge is transferred from students to teachers. We also organize different events that brings community together to learn about disaster reduction. This includes capacity development, different workshops for youths and children, and where they can learn about different skills and knowledge about disaster preparedness. And also we develop different kinds of educational tools. We also have different programs and projects at both community and schools level. And these all focus on like effective and engaging activities for students. And we also regularly conduct like research on how effectively we can include these kinds of tools and education kits for students, and through which we'll just generate idea what is the gap in existing education, and so how we can develop different kinds of DRR content for the students. So most of our work is centered around empowering students and communities through disaster preparedness education localized from Japan. So we highlight majorly two principles, self-help and mutual help, that we learn from Japan. So which are essential for building resilience at the grassroots level. So self-help is the capacity of individuals to prepare and protect themselves during the disasters. We provide targeted training that helps people develop practical skills such as preparation and preventions, first aid, understanding evacuation procedures, and conducting basic risk assessment. Our goal is to ensure that every person has the knowledge and tools to act independently to prepare to emergency. So moving to mutual help, so it is about community collaboration. So it stresses the importance of neighbors, helping neighbors, working together to prepare for and response to disasters. So we facilitate community-based training sessions and collaborative activities that encourage teamwork and share responsibilities. So this principle fosters a strong sense of community support and collective resilience, enabling communities to better crisis together. So we basically focus on these two elements, and we are continuously working with both schools and community. Basically, we have 4 different approaches while working in both schools and community. First, we form a DRR education club at schools. So that currently we are having more than 50 this kind of clubs. And to run the clubs, we provide training for the teachers on how to use DRR education tools and how to localize DRR education materials. And the club members, the club members learn from their teachers, and then there is a peer-to-peer learning. So first they understand about different tools of DRR education, and then from peer-to-peer, this learning will transfer to other students, and from students to community through different community engagement programs. So mostly the schools, they carry out this kind of community engagement program every, like 3 to 4 months, and through which, like, the knowledge will transfer to the community. So we also provide training to the city hall people and also to other different community groups, mother groups, and different business houses as well. So we are also very happy to say that we also have different kinds of student engagement programs within country also, and from we also have different exchange program outside of the country as well. And we also support in developing different kinds of education tools of DRR education to different city people also, and we also get engaged with university students. We are also very proud to be selected as one of the organizations to operate Mitra DRR Learning Center, so which is the first and only privately owned DRR Learning Center in Nepal, as Kendra ji has mentioned this morning. So it is developed in collaboration with international partner like CityNet, and this center serves as a knowledge hub where children and adults can learn about risks and prevention strategy through hands-on activities and creative games. So the center was opened in 2019, but because of pandemic, it was closed for a couple of years. But since 2022, it has received more than 600 visitors, which include students, teachers, international students, organization representatives, and government officials. So we have been also working with this learning center now. So if you see the pictures, the top picture is the picture of university students from Japan who recently visited in Nepal in last November from EHM University. I think the associate professor is also here. So we have received such students on a number of occasions and assist them in coordinating visits to local schools and universities. And the bottom picture is the picture of visit by Japanese school teachers. So every summer in August, we have received Japanese elementary school teachers for exchange in Nepalese public schools. It is also a part of their global capacity building training, and teachers from both Japan and Nepal have enjoyed this knowledge exchange visit. So we have this kind of exchange visit every year. So from university level also, from teachers level also. This year, we expanded our outreach outside of Nepal as well. So our international program also includes knowledge sharing initiative where we train the teachers to disseminate disaster education fit for that local community. This helps to amplify the impact of our efforts and contributes to the global discourse on disaster reduction and education. These pictures from the teachers training for 40 teachers that we recently conducted at New Delhi through the collaboration with All India Institute of Local Self-Governments that just now the Raviji has mentioned, which is also the member of CityNet, and this program is supported by CityNet as well. This year, we also held an international fellowship programs for Nepalese youths in collaboration with Resilient Youth Network USA, which focus on climate and disaster resilience. So we are again partnering with different universities and students throughout the world. So since our inception in 2020, we have reached over 60 schools. Now, we already have established DRR education clubs in 16 different schools, 10 municipalities in Nepal, and directly impacting more than 300 students and training over 150 teachers. So our efforts have also involved 1,000 community members, and our DRR education clubs have empowered students to teach their peers, creating a ripple effect of knowledge and preparedness. We are continuing to scale up this outreach, but by maintaining high quality programs which are localized, interactive, and enjoyable. So now this is my last slide. Looking forward, we aim to expand its reach to more schools and communities across Nepal and outside of Nepal as well. So we are committed to developing a new and engaging DRR educational resources through creativity and innovation, and we aim to strengthen our collaboration with both local and international organizations. So as we face increasing uncertainty with disasters, our goal is to provide expertise and consultation to city government, private agencies, and development agencies, helping to create a more resilient society through creative DRR education. So at the end, I'd like to say that schools play a very crucial role in fostering a culture of disaster preparedness and resilience. By equipping students and teachers with the right tools and knowledge, we can make significant strides in building more resilient communities. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to discussing more during the panel. Together, let's continue to promote disaster resilience through education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deepak. So let's move on to our final presenter, Mr. Ryan.
Hi, good afternoon. Again, thank you for inviting Makati to share in this event. It is my pleasure to share with you Makati's experience in city-to-city responders training. So basically, I will tell you narratives of Makati from being trainee to becoming trainer. And I will not anymore introduce our city because Liza did it earlier this morning. So I'll just proceed with my presentation. All right. So the journey began in 2017 during the CityNet Disaster Cluster seminar held in the city of Yokohama in Japan, where several members of our local disaster risk reduction and management council participated and had the opportunity to visit and learn from Yokohama's best practices. Among the places they were able to visit is the Yokohama Fire Academy, the Yokohama Disaster Learning Center, and the Tokyo Rinkai Disaster Prevention Center. In the same year, representatives from the city of Yokohama and the CityNet Yokohama met with the Makati's mayor, Honorable Marlene Abigail S. Binay, to discuss possible partnerships between the two cities. Full-blown activities for the responders training started as early as March 2018 when representatives from the Yokohama Crisis Management Office, the Yokohama Fire Bureau, and the CityNet Yokohama visited various offices such as the Makati Central Fire Station, the Makati Search and Rescue Base, our local hospital, Hospital ng Makati, and one of our barangay to assess the level of response capacity of the city. From then, they proposed to conduct a series of training of trainers to build Makati's pool of trainers and develop a training curriculum and module. The two cities then went on to formalize their partnership through signing of a memorandum of agreement. And our partners from Yokohama came back in August, this time to observe Makati's response capacities and provision of assistance in emergency and disaster times. We were able to show them a simulation exercise to showcase the emergency and disaster communication and coordination, our responder skills, as well as the different resources that we have in our city. And in December 2018, a team composed of personnel from the Makati Search and Rescue and the DRM Office Training Section came to Yokohama Fire Academy to be trained as trainers for first responders. They spent 10 days working closely with the instructors from Yokohama Fire Academy. And there, Makati learned not only the techniques, but also bridging the communications and culture gaps. But most importantly, our team was able to learn the value of discipline. And there's no better way to learn that from our Japanese friends, right? And from there on, the Yokohama Fire Academy trained personnel. They started re-echoing their learnings to other responders in our city. This is to affect a unified system for response where team roles and responsibilities are identified, pre-identified, and trainings for each personnel are specific, ladderized, and habitual. In 2019, it was the turn of the instructors from the Yokohama Fire Academy to visit Makati. And our Makati Search and Rescue team had a chance to showcase their newly acquired skill during the shakeout. We have a shakeout drill, which we conducted in as part of our celebration of the International Day for Disaster Reduction. And this drill showcased the city's interagency response and rescue techniques, and as well as community response. After that event, there's a 4-day cross-training for the rest of our Makati Search and Rescue team members, no? And the training covers the same skills taught by the instructors from Yokohama Fire Academy to the participants of the training of trainers, which this training includes safety management, hose handling, fire suppression, ladder operation, fire safety at the fire scene, line formation, victim rescue, high-angle rescue, and rapid intervention team, which this activity also aimed at polishing the skills of our responders. And this particular activity was participated in by a total of 91 responders, and including our women responders. And after which a feedback session was held where the instructors presented their observations and recommendations for further improvement. Next is even the pandemic. The pandemic slightly halted but did not stop the Makati-Yokohama partnership. In January 2021, the City of Yokohama, CityNet Yokohama, and Yokohama International Affairs Bureau, as well as the Yokohama Fire Bureau, convened for the continuation of activities for the first responders training. And this alignment meeting is aimed at to conclude and assess the readiness and the capacity of our responders to be able to train others. And based on the skill standards and past trainings provided by the instructors from the Yokohama Fire Academy. And fortunately, our team passed the very high standards of our trainers. I must tell you, their standards are very, very high. And our partner, upon the assessment of our instructors, they deemed our team ready to transfer the skills they acquired to more responders. And Makati ensures that the learnings from our friends from Yokohama Fire Academy will be retained. And among the initiatives made by the Makati Search and Rescue team is the inclusion of the skills learned in the modules for newly hired personnel. We have a module for our newly hired personnel, and in the regular in-house training schedule. And also, it is very important that we practice it in actual response operations. And based on the personnel's performance during the training, Makati SAR has identified our in-house trainers. They are the ones facilitating now our trainings, no? So from being recipients of assistance in trainings, Makati had the opportunity to also share the knowledge and skills, this time to another city, which is the Lalitpur Metropolitan City. And similar to the Makati-Yokohama partnership, it started during CityNet Disaster Cluster Seminar when Makati hosted it in 2013. And during that seminar, participants were able to witness a community drill highlighting a community-led response in one of Makati's barangays. And after the seminar, Lalitpur Mayor Honorable Chiribabu Maharjan stayed for another day and requested for a tour of our DRM Operations Center and our Makati Search and Rescue base. There, he was oriented on the city's disaster management policies, protocols, and procedures, and the different response vehicles and equipment. And the Mayor Maharjan expressed interest in partnering with Makati, and through the help of CityNet, both cities discussed activities, future activities for knowledge and skills sharing. And in 2014, in May of the current year, the Makati DRM office had a 4-day visit in Lalitpur to assess its current response capacities. On the first day, the team visited the Pulchok Fire Station and learned of Lalitpur's protocols and procedures and in emergency and disaster response, the current level of knowledge and skills of their responders, as well as the existing physical resources that they have. In the afternoon, Makati had the opportunity to share its emergency management system as well as its best practices and engage in a focus group discussion together with Lalitpur's responders. And on the second day, the team started the day by doing physical readiness exercise led by our Makati Search and Rescue Deputy, Andrew Reyes. And then Lalitpur then demonstrated their flow of operations and showcased their skills in firefighting. The second half of the day was allocated for skills training. Lalitpur's responders were taught on proper hose handling as well as wearing of complete and appropriate personal protective equipment. And then later on, the skills training continued on the third day. This time, we used instructional videos to demonstrate skills performed by a group because the team that went to Lalitpur is only a handful. So we use instructional videos to demonstrate skills to be demonstrated by a team. And in the afternoon session was dedicated to a return demonstration by Lalitpur's responders. And I must say it was very joyful to watch that Lalitpur's responders were were closely watching their team members, their teammates, and help them and correct them instantly. No? And the team also appreciated the eagerness of the Lalitpur's responder. They even requested us to stay longer. They want us to stay for a month in Lalitpur, but of course, we are not able to do so because of we have other functions to perform in our city. And then Makati team's observation during the 3-day exposure and their recommendations were presented to the officials and officers of Lalitpur, led by their mayor and their vice mayor. And we used the 4S in providing our recommendations. So one is standard operating procedure, staff, and then space and staff. And shown on this slide are some of our recommendations for Lalitpur for their improvement. And this slide now shows the proposed activities or our way forward for the responders training with Lalitpur for 2024. Lalitpur's responders are to visit, hopefully they were able to visit Makati to have a cross-training with our responders. And then they will do a 6-month self-directed learning. And then the continuation of the training will happen in Lalitpur in 2025. We'll go back to Lalitpur to train them further. And then there will be refresher trainings to be conducted, and again, self-directed learning. And through this self-directed learning, Makati will continuously provide assistance and feedback. And then for 2026, it is proposed that Lalitpur responders again visit Makati for the second phase of the responders training. And then it will be concluded by a joint simulation drill of the skills learned through this city-to-city responders training. So what are our key takeaways from this city-to-city responders training experience? So first, even though each city or each country has their own local standards and protocols, it is still beneficial to learn from the best practices of others. And of course, we need to contextualize those learnings to fit our local setting. And then secondly, we should be looking at response as a system. Efficient response does not only rely on a well-trained response team. And then thirdly, I personally appeal to the leaders and decision makers here to please prioritize the safety of our responders by providing them complete and appropriate personal protective equipment and giving them well-being provisions. Because our responders need to be physically and mentally fit for them to be able to respond properly. And then lastly, let's make sure that the gains and learnings will not be put to waste and forgotten. We should be fostering a practice or culture of continuous learning by sharing and transferring our knowledge and skills to others. Remember, sharing is caring. So those are our key takeaways from this experience, and I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. Okay, so before I ask the two experts from Taipei City governments to comment, as you could see from all these four presentations, the practices that they have been doing are not one ad hoc training or workshop or a seminar. These have been very strategically planned over the years and expected to continue for many more years to come. So this is something that we really highlight and encourage our city members to think about long-term planning and how to achieve the goals that they have. Okay, so let me now go on to the experts here from Taipei. First, if I may call on Mr. Chang Wen-tae, Deputy Secretary General of Taipei City Government, to comment on the presentations.
Thank you very much for your presentations and sharing. From our experts sharing, we can deeply feel that disaster management of cities, it actually covers many aspects, covering multiple disasters and the cross-disciplinary knowledge sharing, whether it's Taipei City government or our electoral and also our expansion of knowledge to people and training of professionals on the CityNet, it plays a role. And also from our partner cities, we have found that the experts from the CityNets, we learn it from each other and to increase the resilience of cities. For example, Mr. Ryan talked about the training sessions, training programs, and also the cooperation with Yokohama City, and it's ongoing, and also assessment of disaster capabilities and also teacher training, and also to hold cross drills with Nepal. I would like to show my admirations to you, and also on depot, the input of education or the training of teachers, and also the participation of communities from grassroots upward, and also hand-on training, hand-on learning of the students. I had a very impressive feeling about your presentation. I would like to show my admiration as well, and also the linkage between different cities and also the disaster resilience CityNet lay a very solid foundation. And I also would like to ask you questions. First of all, I would like to ask Mr. Ryan Tego, your cooperation with Yokohama, the cross-national cooperation, and also cooperation with Nepal, the cross-border learning. In terms of disaster rescue assessment, it was in different categories. I would like to ask, in terms of cooperation with Yokohama, I would like to ask you,
how do you evaluate the effectiveness of the planning? Has the result of the training met your expectation? And the second question is for Mahata.
we would also like to strengthen resilience. If it's only done by the government, it's not enough in terms of how to involve teachers and students to become disaster prevention seeds and also to cultivate attitudes of resilience from bottom to upward, to have self-help, mutual help, and public help. How we can cultivate more seeds to encourage them to participate in the process. In terms of education and promotion, what other measures we can do? I would like to ask our president, Mr. Deepa Marahata. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Ryan, you can respond.
Thank you for your question. Monitoring and evaluation is really very important in our operations. As I've mentioned earlier, we have a pool of in-house trainers, and they are the ones facilitating our in-house training. So they are following a certain guideline or a checklist that they for them to assess the performance of our team members, of our responders. And it's a regular training, and the in-house trainer, together with the supervisors, are giving feedback to the team members for their improvement. But in terms of actual outcome, monthly we have our division monthly meeting, wherein we discuss our response time. We are following a standard response time of 3 to 5 minutes during nighttime and 5 to 7 minutes during daytime. And it's also it's our way to gauge if our response system is effective, or if we need to adjust certain things when it comes to our protocols and procedures. And also, maybe one indicator of the effectiveness of the training is that we have not recorded any injuries from our responders. So, because the training that we gain from the Yokohama Fire Academy is also includes making sure that the responders are fit, and prevention of injuries during response. And as of now, we have not recorded any injury on our responders during their firefighting operations.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Deepak, you can respond to the second question.
So the best way to involve these teachers and students is like first we need to train very good teachers. We need to make them, we have to give them TOT, and then from teachers they can share and they can teach to their students. And that's, you asked me how we can cultivate more sales. It is not, our effort is not only sufficient in this matter. So we look forward to working with different local governments. So we need support from local governments to identify teachers, to work with different schools. As in Nepal, the public schools and private schools both are like managed by local governments. So we have been partnering with different local governments, not only inside the Kathmandu Valley, but also outside the valley. And we're trying to, bring different municipality in this matter. So let's hope we can take this knowledge to a greater level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Deepak. So let me ask our final panelist, Mr. Huang Yiping, Commissioner of Public Works Department, Taipei City Government, to give his remarks.
好，谢谢主持人，还有
Thank you very much. Distinguished speakers, especially international speakers. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences with the Taipei City and also other cities in Taiwan. And I have learned a lot about public aid, mutual aid, and self-aid, self-help. I have received a lot of information actually in Wenshan, Neihu district. And when the olive rainfall exceed the 40 millimeter, there will be the notification that sent to our personnel. That means we need to get prepared for any upcoming torrential rain event. Actually, hourly, we can tolerate 77 millimeter, and in the future, we hope that we can raise the threshold to 88 millimeter. And the major reason, of course, is because of climate change and the greenhouse effect. We find that we usually have the very the strong and heavy rainfall within a very short period of time, especially the July this year in the Xinyi district alone. Within the 15 minutes, that the rainfall reached 30 millimeter. Imagine when the typhoon hits Taipei or even Kaohsiung, when the Kami typhoon hit the Taiwan, within just one day, the rainfall exceeded 1,000 millimeter. And of course, we need to have a plan to restore some normalcy to citizens' life after these disasters. What we can say is that probably we have recovered 70 or 80% with the 9-meter dike. That, of course, compromise some natural landscape. And also, I heard from the Ilolo's journey to become a resilient city, to get prepared. We need some construction, need some hardware. And amid the extreme weather event, the engineering alone can not solve all the problems. So other than the building the river dikes, we also need some strategies. For example, we should also have some space to accommodate the storm, the water, and so that we can have the vertical river stormwater flow, not the vertical, not the horizontal flow. That means we can use a permeable pavement, and also we can have some recharging basin or the retention of the basin. So we need to help ourselves. We also need to have the public aid as well as mutual aid. So I have a question for Donna. You talked about iCare, the command center. You have planned for 7, and 2 are still being constructed. And that this is the public-private partnership. And also talked about the private company that plays a very important part. Could you talk about the management of such a project? In a disaster response, we want people to have the peace of mind. In Taipei City, we actually have some potential hazard area. We installed pumping stations in those areas, those flood-prone area. That will give the people living in that community peace of mind. Maybe Mr. Zhang can answer the question. So these are the 2 questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Did I get you right? Your first question is about the management of the eye care centers. And question number 2 is about how do we ensure the peace of mind of our residents. To answer the first question, how about the management of the eye care? Operationally, it is under our office, the Iloilo City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office. I mentioned earlier that there are 4 offices that report in the command center. So whenever there are emergency calls, disaster operations, the command center acts as the nerve center of all the operations. So if there are services or responses needed in a particular area, so the assigned eye care, wherein it is within its area of jurisdiction, we pass on the information to them. We dispatch the personnel under that eye care. So, for example, in a certain district, if there is fire, we receive the call in our command center, and then we pass on the call to the nearest eye care center. So that's how it works. Number 2, on how do we ensure that our people have this a peace of mind. The idea of decentralizing our risk governance is intended to appease our people of the safety in living in the city. You see, the eye care centers are centers or facilities constructed near to more Ilonggo residents. So for example, there are 5 eye care centers in the different parts of the city. So given its area of jurisdiction, so whenever there are emergencies like flooding, what else, vehicular crash, it's always the nearest eye care that responds to them, and it cut down our response time from 10 to 15 minutes to 7 to 8 minutes. So most of the feedback of our people is that they love the idea of having the eye care within their community because we provided for faster disaster response activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
谢谢黄玉谈人提出来的一个。
Thank you very much for the question raised by Mr. Huang, Commissioner Huang. In terms of the deployment of the machines, and actually some of the areas in Taipei, they are lower in terms of levels, and their drainage system are not enough. So it's very possible they will have flood or accumulation of water. So when there is a warning about possible flood, then we will cooperate with the public sector and the private vendors to pre-deploy the system there and effectively disperse the water there. We will have pumping machines there in order to avoid the flood there. So these are the rented machines. At the same time, we have our mobile pumping machine team. In the process of a disaster, if there is a flood in unexpected areas, we will arrive there within 1 hour to disperse the water there. And it's possible the water is retained in households. We will also provide assistance there. So this is the mobile treatments of our team in terms of dispel the water. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we had very good and interesting examples shared from everyone here today. A lot of those can be very replicable to other cities. I think you have been listening all day today, but since DRR is about engagement, I would like to engage all of you now for any kind of questions or comments that you may have. I know we are pressed for time, but I would still like to give this opportunity for any one of you, either in English or Chinese, it doesn't matter. If you have any question or comment, please raise your hand and you will be given a microphone. Okay, we have a question there. Can someone give a microphone to him? Or you can take this. Oh, over there, yes.
Hello. Since the presentations, the three presentations talk about collaboration and partnerships, how do you maintain that partnership in order to be your project to be successful? Like, for example, for Lalitpur, you have the, regarding the depot project, you have a partner, also with Iloilo and also in Makati. How do you maintain the partnership in order to be successful? Thank you.
Is that question for me or for any of the speakers?
Other speakers, I mean.
Speakers,
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so how do you maintain the partnerships? That's the question. Okay, so maybe all of you can give one-word answer or two-word answers. Okay, so we can start from maybe Taipei. Okay, how do you maintain the partnerships to work with different stakeholders?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think today's exchanges are very important. Informing policies by Taipei City government, we actually learn from experiences of other cities, and for us to formulate our policies and put them into execution. And today we are here, the CityNet Disaster Cluster Seminar is a great platform. Taipei City has been aggressively participating in international conferences for exchanges of views. The time is short, but we have learned that today. Me too. And in the future, we will continuously participate in these kind of the seminars and the exchanges of cities. And also, if you are interested to exchange further with us, we welcome you to have a discussion with us. We are willing to share with Taipei City's experiences. Thank you very much.
For Iloilo City, I think it's all about continuous engagement with partners, from the assessment to the development of the projects, implementation, monitoring, and then sustainability. You see, we want to develop this ownership of the program by all the stakeholders. So right from the start, we already engage our partners so that together we co-design the solution, we co-implement the innovative solution, and we co-benefit from the results of the innovations that we have agreed upon. Thank you.
So my answer is also similar to Donna. So we engage our partners through the planning process, and even during the implementation, during the monitoring and evaluation, and during the success sharing, everywhere we engage the partners. So that's why our latter one. So if anything comes in between, so we regularly update with them. We regularly engage with them through different discussion and debate programs. So this is how we are going on.
In the case of Makati, we make sure that we have or we sign a memorandum of agreement with our partners. And this memorandum of agreement outlines a multi-year engagement. We already specified the activities to be undertaken, as well as the roles of each parties, because long-term planning is a key. And we have to make sure, because these activities require logistical requirements. And we need to make sure that our partners can prepare for them, for us to realize these activities. And of course, as mentioned by my fellow resource persons here, communication is also key. It doesn't have to be face-to-face all the time, just like what Makati and Yokohama did during the pandemic period. We meet regularly even through online meetings.
Okay, thank you very much. We have two hands over there. Okay, yes, please.
Yeah. Presentation. A very good presentation. How can get those experience get to Sri Lanka? We already know that there are 30 local government. Already we are training the community leaders, 300 community leaders. But they are very, because we are introduced the similar program eSabha, local government digital platform. I'm very interested in your iCare digital platform, how to collaborate with the work. And especially, I want to ask Kendra-san, how to work with the future program. And another question, you know, the disaster in different pattern in Sri Lanka, you know, some area is elephant, human elephant, the problems. Because otherwise, human behavior, the problem, accident, 6 people every day is die in Sri Lanka. And you know, the couple of next day have to the presidential election, you know, the candidate, the people, the main solution is how to minimize the accident and other elephant, human, the problems. But I know only the slogan, but the how to involve the community, the participation, I think good experience. If we can, I want to know how to share in others.
Thank you very much. So I think the first question will be to Donna. Right? So you mentioned about the private sector contributing in building your iCare center. So how do you do that? How do you convince the private sector to invest in providing a facility for the city government?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. How to convince the private sector? One, you have to have a good record of your governance. And there's no question from the private sector whether they will fund your idea or not. But then again, Iloilo City has this long-standing collaboration with the private sector ever since. So from the different mayors up to our current mayor, Mayor Treñas, we have these very good relationships with the private sector. That's why when he presented this idea about decentralizing our risk governance, they immediately said yes to support that concept. So what they offered was the use of their lot. And the city government, as its counterpart, funded the construction of the building. The interest of the private sector here is that, one, well, they can ensure the safety of their people. You know, most of the iCares are located in the subdivisions or near the malls. So they find it secure to have the ambulance, the fire truck, the police cars within their vicinity, so that anytime they need the what do you call this, the services of these different agencies, they can immediately receive that within 7 to 8 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna. I think the second part of the question was directed towards me. Just to give you a very short, quick answer. Of course, in CityNet also, we have an application process through which you can send in your request made as a proposal. And by evaluating or assessing that, we will try to see where the partners are available or where the funding is available. The other thing is, because we are here now in Taipei with so many other partners, city governments, the other part is to network during these sessions. You can probably explain what your current needs are, how you want to work, make connections, and then we'll be able to facilitate further in developing a proposal with you and whoever you talk with, so that it can be made into a project to assist your concerns. I don't know if that answers your question, but I would say that. Okay, thank you very much. So we had one more hand from Mr. Kirti. Yes, please.
Well, I'm sorry. If I knew my neighbor was asking question, I would not ask question. But see, my observation is this, and my question is to everyone. And it is this. Disasters have changed their character, their nature because of climate change. The whole nature, whole definition has changed. And therefore, to deal with disasters in an episodic manner, to deal with disaster in the context of training, to me, is too little. What we require is systemic change. And therefore, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to everyone. It's not so much what training you do, not center you open, but how do you change thought processes? Because climate change is all about lifestyle changes. We're talking about new life. And in that context, I wanted to see, because you people are dealing with it, what are the deeper thinking? You're not able to answer now or a little later, doesn't matter. But I'm saying, what are the deep thoughts in the context of educational changes, not only education program, not only in terms of training, in the context of how do you kind of change mindsets of people so that it becomes different. That's a larger question I would like to ask people who are doing actually work in the field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirti. That's a very big question to answer. But I think, Kirti, you do have a very important point because it's about mindset changes and habitual changes that we need to bring, especially if we are talking about climate change, right? So if there is one or two volunteers who would like to answer his question, you can raise your hand and I can pass the mic to you. Done? Okay, we have our panelist over there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. I think that's a very big question. I would also like to tell you about the concept that Taipei City is promoting right now for sharing. Actually, climate change, it is a systematic process we try to adapt to. Most important thing is change our mindset, or we need to change our living habits. Therefore, we're talking about climate disasters caused by climate changes like rising sea levels or the extreme climate. We might not be able to control them, but we can control how we adapt to new ways of living. And from the new ways of living, we change our needs for the future, and then we can leave an environment that's livable to the next generation. Our mayor also value a lot of the cooperation in the CityNet. We gathered our strengths in order to mitigate disasters and prevent disasters. Our mayor gave us a concept, gave the government officials as well as the citizens. We don't just see the happening of disasters. We instead need to think about how, before it happens, we will be able to prevent it from happening, from keeping it small, avoiding it becoming bigger, and also from some symptoms, signs, to avoid it from becoming a disaster. And from the practices of the government employees and also in the disaster prevention mechanism, we need to change our ways of living. And through education, we can expand that concept to children. By doing so, we will be able to change our ways of living. For example, turn off the light when you leave the room. These kind of the minor things actually can stimulate supply from the industries because of a mindset change, and the industry, they will also come up with different procedures and processes to satisfy our need. We need to do it from now, changing our mindset, changing our behaviors. This is my sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think there are no more questions or comments, right? Oh, okay, we have one back there. So let me call that a last question, please. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. This is something, this question is related to what the previous query was about, like the change in the mindset, or even looking into the future with more foresight, like more futures thinking. And this goes to, my question goes to Director Chang, because I'm very impressed with what Taipei City is doing with regard to incorporating climate change projections, particularly rainfall, into the design of their stormwater infrastructure. So, but I noticed that, okay, there's stormwater infrastructure, drainage improvements, pumping stations, etc. So these are like engineering, structural interventions that take into consideration more rainfall into the future. But what do you do actually with the water in the retention ponds, in the catchment areas? Do you use that for, like, is there a plan for using it? Because one of the presentations earlier, there's rainwater catchment, right? To be used during summer or during dry periods. So what does Taipei City do with the retention ponds or catchment areas? And like, again, the lifestyle change, because these are all structural engineering measures. What do the people do to actually contribute to making your city more resilient against flooding, in addition to all these engineering interventions?
Thank you very much for your question. I think you actually gave us some key points. The idea of retention ponds, that is, before the rainfall comes, we empty the ponds. In Taipei City, we have different kinds of retention ponds. One is empty, and then when rainfall comes, and then it will come in through ditches or pipes. And after the rainfall, the water will be dispersed. It's empty, but it's a park usually when it is not raining. So that is called ecological ponds, retention ponds. It is a local park. You will not know it's a retention pond. It's usually looking like a pond. And do we reuse them, the water, in your question? That's complicated because, to keep the water or to disperse the water, that's complicated because it involves a lot of mechanism. For example, if you got water there, you keep the water, but if the next rainfall coming, you have to be able to disperse the next foreign rainfall. So actually, we usually keep it empty and then make it a park instead of making it a retention pond to store the water at the same time to disperse the water. So that's my answer to your question. And in terms of the citizens' cooperation, I think different cities have different cultures. Taipei City citizens would like the government to share more responsibilities. But actually, the public sector put in efforts in building infrastructures, but we would like to lead the people to think that they also need to shoulder their responsibilities. When you build your buildings, you have to establish a building with better resistance or capacities of flood prevention. We put these responsibilities to people, and so far it has been quite successful. And it's not an overnight thing. We encourage people to accept temporary barriers of flood flood barriers. If they are willing to do that, if they are living in the lower area in Taipei City, they can block the water, block the flood outside to minimize their damages. In Taipei City, some people, they cannot accept this idea because they worry about their real estate prices, their house prices. But actually, for the barriers, we subsidize fully, and now more and more people are applying for the subsidy. You know, this is a very good opportunity of education after a big flood for people to know how important flood prevention is. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we can conclude this session now. I would like to once again thank all the speakers and the panelists for giving us your wonderful insights and also inspiring us to work better. And I hope that you will be able to share more through our city members and also the organizations who are present here today. Thank you very much once again.
Okay, thank you very much. So the last picture, we will invite all of you to stand right in front of the central stage. Now the photographer will take a photo for all of us on the stage, okay? And then we know after the picture, there's another important session will be presented by the special guest. So right now, please face forward, smile. Thank you. It's the first very formal one. And the second one, let's listen to the thumbs up. Yeah, every session we have a thumbs up photo to the success of the disaster cluster seminar this year. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Kendra, so we have a further plan, right? Starting right now. So would you like to introduce the next session? Okay, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are at the end of the day, and we have one final session. It's going to be short. This is about MCR 2030, Making Cities Resilient 2030. I think many of you may already be familiar, but it's a program of the UNDRR, which allows cities, organizations to sign up. And the purpose or the objective for signing up to MCR 2030 is for them to be able to assess their capacity, to assess their risks, and to make programs accordingly so that they can improve the resiliency of their cities. And in this program, in CityNet, this MCR 2030 program has really been championed by Makati City Government. We have seen how they have facilitated MCR 2030 within their city in different departments, as well as training cities from the outside. Just earlier, we had Ms. Liza Ramos. She mentioned about training the city officials from Nepal on MCR 2030. We did this program in July this year. And this was because the Nepalese cities, they had signed up for the MCR 2030. However, they did not know what to do next. It's a bit technical, but they needed to do something. And in order to do that, we asked Makati city government to help us train the city officials in Nepal so that they can work online and to be able to see where they stand in terms of their resiliency efforts. So today, I'm going to ask our final presenter, Ms. Liza Ramos, to introduce us how they have been doing MCR 2030 programs in Makati and their perspective on sharing this to other cities outside of the Philippines. Liza, the floor is yours.
And friends, I'm back on stage. I hope this is, well, I think you're wishing that this is already a prelude to the welcome dinner prepared by our Taipei friends. But unfortunately, this is again another information session. But I think this is a better way to end this day one and start off for the next day with another information overload session for tomorrow, no? I think it's a good takeoff. Well, the last session was a good takeoff from this presentation. Questions about partnerships, questions about how to network, how to do city-to-city cooperation. And this is basically what the MCR 2030 is all about. And as mentioned by Kendra, Makati has been you know, an active partner of the UNDRR. I'm looking for the, here. Active partner of the UNDRR in promoting this MCR 2030 campaign. And so we'd like to encourage everybody here, no, to take part. And as mentioned by Kirti earlier, no, that talks about climate and disaster resilience. It's all about behavioral change. And behavioral change for the communities can only happen if we ourselves, the institutions, have also changed our mindsets when it comes to disaster resilience. No? And the thing is, we can only do that if we'll expose ourselves to different practices and innovations that other cities around the world are doing. No? This is exactly why we have this annual CityNet Disaster Cluster Seminar. So I've mentioned this already, that Makati is a resilience hub recognized by the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. We're actually second to Incheon in the Asia-Pacific region to be recognized as such. Right now, in the Asia-Pacific region, there are only 4 resilience hubs. And by being a resilience hub, it is actually our commitment to, you know, provide practices, share our practices to different cities. And so we are committed as well. Now, to become a resilience hub, you have to have a 3-year action plan, a commitment, co-financing, sharing of best practices, no? And again, we've been doing this since even before being a resilience hub, but I think there's no better way to showcase how we've been doing it and how to encourage you to be part of the MCR 2030, or to at least make use of our services. Because this is our commitment not only for the MCR 2030, but also being the CityNet Disaster Cluster lead. So let me show you what we've done in the past years through an audiovisual presentation.
Makati City, at the heart of progress, innovation, and resilience. For over a decade, Makati has championed disaster risk reduction, building safer and stronger communities. As part of the Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative, Makati has taken decisive steps to ensure its Makatisecs and systems are equipped to face both current and future risks. This journey is built on a decade of experience, collaboration, and continuous improvement. Through the MCR 2030 initiative, Makati has increased awareness and action towards disaster risk reduction, forged strong partnerships with government, private sector, and civil society. Facilitated training, webinars, and workshops to build resilience capacity. Develop critical tools and resources for cities worldwide. Foster the global network of cities committed to enhancing resilience. We've conducted comprehensive risk assessment, shared best practices, and provided technical assistance to cities developing their resilience strategies. Over the past decade, Makati has made great strides in its journey to resilience, largely aided by MCR tools made accessible to us. We are eager to pay it forward by optimizing the opportunity to share our knowledge, best practices, and resources with other cities so that together we can attain the highest level of resilience come 2030. As we look to the future, we invite you to join us on this journey of resilience. Together, we can build stronger, safer cities across the globe. Makati City, making resilience as a way of life.
Welcome to Makati in a 2-minute video. So that's basically what we are sharing and what we are committing to provide to the different cities globally. No, I've shown this earlier, no, but what I want to emphasize is that because of our over a decade of experience, mainstreaming DRRM and the concept of having resilience as everybody's business is not just a buzz phrase for us. It's not a buzz concept that we just wanna, say that we are resilient, because that's what the global network or global community has been saying. Because we've really experienced the challenges of not engaging stakeholders, private sector, non-government organization, children, youth, gender, name it. And so because of that, we also want to make sure that these learnings of a decade worth learning from the MCR campaign is something that we can also share with you. It's as Kendra said earlier, it's paying forward, because it's not an easy feat to be recognized. It's not an easy feat for your citizens to understand what you're doing. And so, as we've said, resilience building, disasters knows no boundary, right? So it's important that collectively we help each other as well in order to build the resilience of the whole globe, if I may say. And again, as I've said, I'm just showing you what we have committed as a resilience hub. And again, knock on your doors to just let us know. We have here an 8-person delegation team from Makati. Guys, can you please just stand up? From the different departments and offices of the city government of Makati, you're not standing up, guys. There you go. These are from Makati, the same people who are the reasons why we have been recognized as a resilience hub. We have representatives from our Department of Environmental Services, Department of Engineering and Public Works, Urban Development Department, and the different functional units of the DRRM office. And whatever service you need from us, of course, that's also only in terms of climate and disaster resilience building, you may reach out to any one of them. So number one, it's about promoting the MCR, city-to-city cooperation. As mentioned many times already, we've been the memorandum of agreement with Lalitpur Metropolitan City for the continuing education of their responders, and also for the continued assistance for resilience road mapping is something that we're working on already. We're also going beyond the Asia-Pacific region, because we're also forging partnerships, a formal one as well, with Cologne, Germany. One of the photos there in the video earlier was with some of the German partners. So we're also doing that kind of engagement. So we're also gonna open, I hope by early next year, an online knowledge portal of our services and our best practices, so that anytime, anywhere, you can already access. And from that portal, you can even request a coaching and mentoring session from the city of Makati. I will not go through the next few slides, because these are just some of the activities that we've been doing since becoming a resilience hub. But you might, get some idea on how we can collaborate, we can cooperate, or we can engage as cities who want to build our resilience for our communities. So we have trainings. If you're also interested to be an ISO certified resilient city, come and we will teach you how. We will connect you with the World Council on City Data to be part of the growing network of ISO certified resilient cities globally. And of course, our continuous twinning and partnership building activities. We've been doing this not only internationally, but also locally. In a month, we've been receiving 4 to 5 study visits at a minimum. So come join the fun in visiting a hashtag Better Makati. These are just some of the activities this year. And in November, in October, if in November, Iloilo will host the Executive Committee meeting of CityNet. In October, a month before, the Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference on DRR will be hosted by the Philippines. And Makati has a session with the other 3 resilience hubs in the Asia-Pacific region. So if you will be, joining that APMC DRR event, please do not forget to go to the session of Makati with Incheon, Ulsan, Tsuji, and just recently, like few days ago, Sendai, City of Japan, where the Sendai framework came from, will also join this session in the APMC DRR. And this has been a very, familiar framework for everyone. We've been using this as well in everything that we do. And we believe that this is something that all of us should really imbibe in everything that we do in terms of resilience building. There's no better way to really ensure the resilience of our city but by involving our citizens and the other stakeholders. So I will not go through this one by one, but I think this is also one of the best learnings that we got from our CityNet engagement and our Yokohama partnership in the past, no, aside from the training that Ryan mentioned or presented earlier. And that's it. So I think we're all good, and hopefully we've encouraged you enough to be part of the growing family of the MCR 2030 network. And again, just do not forget to knock on our doors if you need any coaching, mentoring, resilience road mapping, capacity building programs for us to be able to build a network of resilient cities in the Asia-Pacific region. Thank you so much. Over to our MC.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for the introduction and your enthusiasm, encouragement for everybody join this very special organization. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now the day one agenda now we have completed successfully. I would like to announce about tomorrow, because right now we have the 4:36, and for international guests, we arrange a very special dinner tonight at the same place that we're dining at the luncheon. So at 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, 6, 1800. 6 o'clock evening, before that, you are invited to come to the dining hall and have a very great dinner for the international guests. And currently, we have more than 1 hour to take a rest, and you can also interaction, do free networking, and maybe take some rest. But be prepared by 6 o'clock evening, we will join together for the lunch, for the dinner. And for tomorrow, all the participants, tomorrow morning, we will start at 8:50, 10 minutes before 9, and then we'll start our agenda tomorrow. For registration, with 8:30, they will open for everybody to check in inside and also relax yourself. So thank you very much for joining the day, and very wonderful discussion, very inspiring and also very educational. Thank you for all the moderator, speakers, and the panelists who joined this afternoon session. Thank you. I'll see you tonight at the dinner. Thank you.